Okay, and we are live again for Fireside Fridays, where we get to talk all things tech and life at Verizon and Verizon Connect. And this week we've got quite a treat. We've got Jonny Kehoe, who is an associate director with Verizon Connect, responsible for engineering and all things support. So I'm going to bring Jonny in now. And hey, Jonny, you are live.
How you doing? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you too. Look, thanks a million for taking a little bit of time to talk with me. As you know, Fireside Fridays is all about tech, talking all things tech. Although we tend to meander a little bit. I had Nick Power on last week and we were chatting about food markets and how not to upset engineering leaders and the team and that kind of thing. So, look, I know you. You were one of the first faces I saw when I went back on site on the other day. So I was delighted to catch up with you again after 2 long years. How has your 2 years been through the pandemic?
Yeah, God, it's an interesting question, isn't it? Look, it's been good. I mean, it's been obviously a very difficult time for everybody, both from a work perspective, personally, your families, and trying to deal through so many unknowns. But I think, look, we've managed through it pretty well as you can with 2 young children and daycare and restrictions and all the things that go with it. But look, everybody has their ups and downs during this, but it has gone pretty well for us. And in terms of having the support that we've had to be able to work from home and the flexibility of doing that, but also just the environment that we've had to rebuild, and it's actually been really good, right? And we've actually discovered a lot of things that really worked to our benefit because of it, right? So silver linings as part of everything that went with COVID, I guess. Managed through it, but I'm not really looking forward to get back into the office as well. As you said, we got back in for a couple of hours this week, and quite energized to see people's faces again and start to talk about just the general things that you kind of miss out because you're either back to back on calls or you're just not seeing people that you would pass every day. So it's great to be back doing that now again.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So I'm thinking back to the beginning of the pandemic, and just to give a bit of context for anyone who tunes in, do you want to maybe tell us what you're responsible for, what your group does? Because I think you would have been right up there at the front of it when COVID started to hit, and we had to think about, going dark, but keeping the business up and running, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you said to start, I'm associate director for service support and service delivery for Verizon Connect. So, basically responsible for all the kind of support functions of the engineering group on behalf of our customers, right? Our Connect customers globally. I've got a kind of a global team that are responsible for a number of different disciplines. So we're located in New Zealand, India, Dublin, Atlanta, Austin, and to name a few other places. So we are responsible for basically the customer when it comes to engineering and the stability and the reliability of our products. So we have engineers dotted around the different locations that provide 24/7 follow the sun support models, and basically ensuring that the customer experience is always at a top level, but also making sure that we're serving any issues that need to come in as part of the engineering group. So defects, enhanced technical issues, maybe some information on the more intricate needs of the customers when it comes to the technical capabilities of the products. So we have engineers who basically will go in, assess the type of technical issues that come in, and these come up from our front-facing customer support teams, so our tier 1, tier 2 teams. If they can't use their capabilities that they have their hand, then they'll lean on us for that support. So we're dealing with potential bugs, defects, but also the reliability of the system. So making sure that our system is up and running and that we deal with any potential fallout. So we'd be managing incidents and war rooms and making sure that we pull all the engineering teams together to ensure that we remediate any problems to the systems as quickly as we can. And obviously that's a very important role for the business, but also to ensure that the customer experience is really maintained. And with the start of the pandemic, we were kind of one of the first teams to kind of trial, I guess, how we would work from home. So obviously there was, at the start of the year, there was rumblings about, COVID and what would happen, and maybe work from home. And that was kind of a foreign concept to us, especially as a support team. Like we have a NOC, we have an operations center in our offices. People are facing, massive walls of monitoring and alerting, and really intricate views of the experience that our products are offering. And we were not sure how we would separate ourselves from that. But we were one of the very first teams to trial going home and working at home for 2 days. And I think we decided that on the Wednesday evening. We said, right, we'll work from Thursday and Friday, and then we never came back. That was it. So it was a bit of a scramble to figure out how the logistics of it would work, how we would make sure that we would provide that same level of service to our customers. But we had built fairly robust systems and capabilities that allowed us to do that anyway. So I think we had scaled and future planned inadvertently, but it allowed us to kind of transition quickly enough. Now, as with anything, everybody had the teething issues, and we had to kind of go through, just the kind of pains of getting used to it. But I think we navigated fairly quickly, and we got great support from local leadership, but also the wider Verizon group. We're very supportive to make sure we were able to kind of transition without any worry, right, and make sure we had all the support there. So it kind of helped that process for us.
Yeah, that's brilliant, and it's interesting as well, because when we, obviously we're working in talent acquisition, we're talking to all sorts of people and engineers, and we describe the company as a part of that, and pitch, what we do, what's cool, and all of those kind of things. But one of the bigger descriptors that we would use is to call the business a SaaS business, and then we kind of expand out on that. But we're not a true or a pure SaaS business, in that there's a hardware element to what we do as well. And your group straddles both those things, the software world and the hardware world, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we are service support engineers split across both disciplines. So we've got the kind of traditional SaaS models, software support engineers who are dealing with that kind of, mobile issues, browser issues, and the product in kind of the internet space. But then we've got our tracking units, or our assets, our video cameras, right? That are the physical units that are installed inside of our customers' vehicles and their assets. And obviously that has an intricate part to play as a service that we offer, but it's also, it's an added layer of complexity, but it's also exposed us to a lot of other technologies and processes that you wouldn't traditionally see in the SaaS space. So it's not traditional in the sense of the kind of work we have to do day to day. Obviously, our offering from the customer is predominantly SaaS, and once it's installed in their vehicle, they don't really have to worry about it from then. It's about them getting the return of investment inside the product itself.
Got it. And then when you're hiring, I guess you're going to hire different types of profiles based on those differences, right? So if your group is responsible for service and support engineering and that, you're going to have a slightly different skill set on our focus, maybe is more fair to say, on the hardware side that you support rather than the software side. Is
correct? Yeah, I mean, look, the model would traditionally be, engineers with computer science backgrounds, either straight out of college, or they've been in the industry for a few years. I mean, that was our traditional model. But obviously, as at least from my group, as we took over, focusing on the hardware support side of things, obviously we had to diversify our skill set. We focused more on the electronic engineering kind of skill sets, or people who had the skills working with electrical equipment, right? And that didn't have to be vehicle based, right, or anything in the telematics space. We have people who worked on healthcare equipment, right? But it's the concept of how electrical circuits work and power, and how you have to integrate them into a vehicle or an asset or any kind of other type of device you're trying to get a reading from. So yeah, it definitely brings a different skill set to the team, but also a different domain expertise that we require as well. So although a lot of the offerings or the service that the engineers would provide, are fundamentally the same in terms of what they're supporting. Obviously, how they go about their day will be slightly different depending if you're on software or hardware related support.
Got it. Okay. Well, the question I want to ask you, and I'm asking everybody this question, right? So I'm going to put you on the spot here, and it's a kind of left of field one to just throw at you. But what's the coolest thing about what your group does? So if I'm out there in the ether on LinkedIn, and I've got that electronic engineering degree or comp sci degree with med tech equipment experience, or Canvas or whatever it might be, and I'm looking at Verizon Connect, what's cool about what you guys do?
Yeah, look, it's a good question. I mean, look, I think in general the services that we offer, are cool in terms of, they're quite diversified, but they're quite cutting edge. But when it comes to the service support group, whether it's one of our software or hardware service support engineers, or a service delivery team, or incident managers, or problem managers, knowledge managers, whether it's any of those types of roles, the great thing about our group is that we have to be involved in everything end to end across the engineering, UX, and product worlds, because if you were, and I'm not going to shoehorn anybody's position, but if you were hired for a certain type of development role, that'll be your domain. You'll be in there, you'll be focused on that. It'll definitely be diversified, it definitely get exposure. But as part of the hardware service support group, we need to know about every single team, right? Where, if you move into certain roles, you might need to know about, a certain spectrum of teams around you. But we've got to know how every single engineering team works. We've got to know about the technologies they use, which means we need to train on the technologies they use. It's not kind of like read this manual and you'll understand. We've got to get into the architecture diagrams. We've got to get into the under the hood of the logic of way of how it's built. At the infrastructure, right? We need to know we're in the cloud now. We've moved away from on-premise data centers into the cloud, and obviously that's had to diversify our engineers. They've had to train up in AWS. That's cutting edge. That's where everybody is. That's the buzz in the industry at the moment. And they're the type of things that we need to continuously upskill on. And as every single new team either develops or expands their skill set or technology, we have to go along with them. So we're constantly going through this curve of learning, but exposure. So our team has always been a great, let's call it a good feeder team, because especially for people new into the industry, because it gives you exposure to the network side of things, the infrastructure, the engineering, the UX, the product, because you've got to work with all of those teams. Because when you're supporting a technical need or a stability issue on behalf of a customer, you've got to be able to go to any one of those teams to determine how do we solve for it, how do we put a solution in place, or just get guidance on what we're doing. Yeah. So it's always kind of hustle and bustle. You're always learning something new, which is kind of one of the reasons why I've always been attracted to this discipline, is because every month, every year, we have to continuously evolve. So we're always learning something new. And we're also, the other really exciting part of it is we're probably not the traditional engineering support kind of team that you might think about, where, you've got engineering and then you've got maybe a support team and then they're dealing with other support teams. We are fully integrated with the engineering team. We're using the Verizon Connect cross-functional model, where our engineers are not kind of sitting in a pod of other, support engineers and kind of working, in that silo. They actually go into they're assigned into a specific discipline inside of one of the products or one of the services. And so they're in with the developers, the UX designers, the product owners, and they're getting full exposure of that. They're in those meetings. They're being able to get in and actually get in design conversations, be able to put their own requirements up front in terms of, well, look, this is a great feature to build, but don't forget we need to support it, provide a really good, what I call the warranty, right? You're going to provide a really good warranty back out to the customer. And that means that they have to be involved in that process, start to finish, where that's not usually the traditional model. Is like, you design it, you build it, there might be some capabilities in there to support it. And then you kind of deliver that kind of later in the project. It's now we've changed the model. We're in from the start, right? And we're part of that. We're seen as part of that team. We are part of that team. And that has completely changed how we've been able to support our customers and actually bring the rest of the engineering team along with the customer experience as well. So that's long-winded, but that's the kind of stuff that drives kind of the cool and the exposure inside of our group.
That's really interesting. For a lot of what you said resonated with me there, for many reasons. And we talk to people out there who are interested in culture within the organization and teams, what they look like, and everybody's interested in what the opportunity is. They also want to contribute and bring skills and experiences and that kind of thing. But what you were saying reminded me of one of Verizon's taglines that we share as part of the employee value proposition, and that's that we learn and grow at the speed of technology. And that's a tagline, and it's cool. I love it, right? I get my team to kind of try to embody that, and we're always trying to continuously learn and develop, and we set time aside to do those things. But you described it perfectly there, and it's not just a nice to have, it's actually a necessity from what you're saying. Yeah, that's pretty cool. There's another thing I wanted to just touch on with you as well, and it's a slight a flavor of, or in addition to what you'd said there. You're talking about the team being essentially part of a cross-functional team, right? So this goes back to how we build software, how we engineer software. Nick talked last week about trying to get back to our lean ethos and that, but you're part of that. So it's not that old, the stereotypical cost to the business, sitting on the outside, supporting something, break fix mentality. It's actually part of how we design, build, launch, support software as a cross-functional process.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the service support teams or service delivery teams, I mean, we discuss and talk about lean just as much as the engineering teams do, right? We are all trying to make sure that we're focusing on that, fail fast, quick iterations, don't get bogged down too much on the requirements of trying to really get everything right. It's about trial and error and moving quickly. That's how the development teams in Verizon Connect move so fast. That's how we're able to deploy so fast, that they're using that lean ethos, right? And they're using that day to day. And that applies whether you're an engineering team, you're in product UX, or you're one of the services teams, right? Whether it's operations, service support. We all have to understand how that works, and we all have to play a part in it, because we will use lean practices as part of our day-to-day, our own project management, our own delivery pipeline of the services that we build and we offer, but also making sure that we're in line with the engineering and the product team's roadmap and how they're delivering that. And we play a part of, we're engineers as part of that and have to help deliver that as well. So we've got tasks in there, especially when we're launching new big products like our go-to-markets. Multiple disciplines involved, right? And you're trying to pull all those groups together. We all have to be kind of singing off the same hymn sheet, right? You can't be kind of coming in and not really knowing how it works. You've got to be all fully involved and brought along together.
Yeah. So this is why we call these roles DevOps roles. It's that level of being embedded within that overall process. That's brilliant. Okay, so here's a question for you. And again, I always try to empathize with people who might be on the outside looking in and try to figure, what would they like to know? What kind of leader are you? What sort of culture have you built on your team?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess, look, I mean, we've always been a very open company, right? So I've been with Connect and I guess its predecessor, Fleetmatics, for over 16 years, and I've seen a lot of changes in the business, right? As you would, but you've seen a lot of changes because with a lot of success, you don't get that success without all those changes, right? And one of the things that has always been there is our culture around people being involved and everybody having a seat at the table, right? Yeah. So it's never been kind of silos of decisions, from CTO down or above, right? Everybody was always involved. Open door policy. We sit in with our teams. You don't hide off. We sit side by side with everybody. And my style is more around making sure that like my team understand the goals and strategy for the year. Like that is my job, is to make sure that they have a clear understanding of that, and that I'm helping enable them to do that, or I'm helping the rest of the business ensure that we can provide those results. And for me, it's setting those out, but letting then the team use their own autonomy. So autonomy is a massive thing upon us, right? We want, and with responsibility, you get that autonomy, but you also get that ownership, right? So that is how we drive the teams. Is we kind of set, a goal or initiatives, but we let the teams decide how they want to get there. We know the outcomes we want to drive, and we're very clear that, there is a certain outcome we want, but we allow the teams to go off and decide, how they want to progress through that. And that's definitely the style we have. It definitely not a, too much of a hands-on approach, but you're always there, and there's always an open door in terms of feedback. And look, we use those lean principles as well, right? Go
Yeah.
back, come back with a proof of concept, come back with a phase 1, phase 2, let's iterate, give feedback, and everybody is invited to be able to do that. So that's how the flow of not just my team, but all of the teams works.
Yeah.
And what that also produces is it allows us to comfortably say, to any level engineer, whether they're an intern or a graduate or a senior engineer in the group, there's no hassle going and walking up to a senior architect or a director or an other leader to seek that feedback. Everybody's willing to bring everybody along, and that is one of the strongest things that we've always held on to, as part of our culture, but it's also part of our management process as well, right? It's allowing the teams to have that. So that's kind of how my take of it is. Definitely, look, the other thing as well is making sure that we have the right talent in. We're always making sure that we're upskilling our teams to make sure that they can take that autonomy on, right? We have lots of great training, we have lots of great resources to upskill people, whether it's through our own sharing and training, or whether it's leveraging on other official training paths that Verizon offer back into our group. So by doing that as well, you're giving more people to the power and the autonomy to make those decisions themselves as well, without having to kind of wait for top down direction.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and the different types of training as well that you touched on there, on the open door policy. I think that's part of the DNA of the business. I bumped into Alan just the other day, and just to kind of flag for everybody, I've talked a couple of times here about bumping into you or being back in the office and that, but we have an amazing hybrid approach to what working forward or going forward in work will be like. And it's flexible up to a day a month, flexibility on both sides kind of thing. But I think I personally enjoyed a bit of the magic you get when you bump into people in the office. There's something there. And one of the cool things that happened just the other day was Alan told me that he had set up the Lean Primer training pathway again. And I asked him, could I get my team stuck into that as well? Because if they pick up what Lean is within Verizon Connect, they can talk to people we're trying to attract into the business and give them the best possible representation of how we do things. And no problem. Within minutes, there was the invite and off we go. We have the entire program lined up for the team, most of whom haven't taken any Lean training at all. And it was just that easy, and that's the way it is in Verizon Connect. So I love that, I have to say, and it gives a real feeling of inclusion as well. That said, we're talking about your engineers, but you're hiring now as well, right? So you're a couple of teams, not just here in Europe, but over stateside as well at the moment.
In the US as well, in Atlanta, Yeah, we've got 2 roles open currently at the moment. In Dublin, we're looking for a hardware service support engineer. So kind of to the discussion we were having earlier on, we've got a need for engineers who are going to work on those assets, those video cameras, and the tracking units that we have within the our portfolio. And we've got first party, third party units in there that we work with, and we're looking for engineers obviously who have some kind of electrical background in terms of have maybe worked hands-on with hardware. I mean, that we've had engineers come in, from a broad spectrum of skill set. They were maybe previous installers for different companies installing different types of hardware. They were maybe coming from the similar kind of industry, SaaS based, but had a hardware aspect to it, or completely different, where in a total different market where you wouldn't have think, maybe not in the IT sector, but as it maybe healthcare, and maybe mechanical. So there's lots of different areas there. So those engineers that we're looking to come in and work on those devices that we're offering as part of our feature set, and it's supporting them. It's working with our hardware engineering and product teams to make sure that they got all the capabilities that they need, and that we have all the support capabilities to ensure a really good customer experience with those. And then on the US group, we have a service support reliability engineer, and this is a role where it's more focused in on the software and the infrastructure side of things. So we're as part of like our service delivery model, but also just our day-to-day alerting and monitoring around our systems is getting under the hood there, and working and partnering with the engineering teams, the operational teams, to look at patterns, to look at trends, to look at using our APM tools. So whether it's App Dynamics or you're using AWS cloud services, and the capabilities in there to get under the hood and really kind of identify, well, have we got maybe smaller issues that are bubbling up, or issues that are kind of maybe they're not optimal, but with a few tinkering things we could get them to be really fully optimized, and working with the development teams and operations teams to identify those and try build up our capabilities and our scale, but ensuring as well that when we do have issues, that we've got really robust skill set to help resolve for those, right? So and as I was going back to the earlier in part of the conversation about the cross-functional team, this is a need that we've kind of seen evolve, that the development teams are very focused on owning the development of their products, but also they have to support and make sure that the offering that their service is giving are fully optimized and performant. And we've seen the need to help them in that space, to support them more, to make sure that when we do hit those incidents, or we end up finding ourselves in a war room trying to fix an issue, is that we've got a robust capabilities from all different points of view. And that's where the service support reliability engineer will come in from the very customer aspect side of it, but also will have a very good knowledge of what's happening under the hood with that development team, and will know the needs of that development team, and then with that have been trained or built up run books or operational documents to make sure we know that if we see certain issues, we can execute and fix those really quickly. So that's a group we're starting to build up more. I mean, they're capabilities that we have, but we're trying to focus more to get some more of those reliability engineers in across our dev teams.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So I have to ask you one last thing, right? Because I know some of my team will be watching in on this, or maybe watching a replay at some stage. I brought a couple of the team on a walkabout of the office, because it was their first time back in to see the building. It's a pretty impressive building as well. Mm-hmm. But we walked by the war room, and or one of the war rooms, and there was much scratching of the head. And so what's a war room, Jonny, for those who don't know?
Yeah, so a war room is basically when we find ourselves in a situation where we've got maybe a potential stability issue, or we're in a a real life scenario where we have maybe a performance issue, right, happening on our production environments, is that the service support team and our specifically our service delivery teams or incident managers would coordinate what we call a war room, which is basically a focus room where we will pull in all the required engineers and record any of the people that we need, that we think that would aid in the resolution of that issue, or the prevention of a potential issue that may arise. And so we would be coordinating that, making sure that we're capturing all the data, we're looking at trending, and we're looking at what might potentially be happening, with the focus of getting as quick as a resolution to that problem as we can. Yeah. And to make sure that as part of that, we're documenting the potential fix, we're implementing it and deploying it, but also making sure that as part of our post-incident or post-war room processes is that we're closing that issue for good. And that shouldn't reoccur again, right? So moving into a much more proactive approach to incidents. Issues will always happen. That's the nature of SaaS business, right? It's about how you react to it and then how you deal with it afterwards. And that's kind of the purpose of our war rooms, or dedicated rooms to go in. So it might look like, there's a lot of head scratching, but it's usually very quite constructive. We've got a lot of powerful tools and data at our hands. And obviously, look, you'll see a lot of urgency in those rooms trying to get our customers back to the best performance they can. But look, we've got best-in-class processes. We have our ITIL processes that we use, which are predominantly focused on making sure we can deliver that kind of response, but also just the skill set across the teams, the engineering teams. You got some of the best in the industry there that can come in and really help us pinpoint and fix these things quickly, and then remediate it full-time after that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. No, the head scratching was on our side of the glass. Not
Well, there's sometimes head scratching, but we get there.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So look, I have one final. I asked Nick this question as well. Actually, one final question for anybody out there, DevOps engineers, DevOps support, service support engineers, who might be thinking that sounds pretty cool to me, because it is, right? What's your message to them if they're thinking about applying, or maybe they have 75% of what we have on the job spec and they don't match up, or whatever it is? What's your message?
Yeah, look, what I would say is that when it comes to, first of all, your competencies for a role, look, it's great to be able to say you can check all the boxes, but one of the things that at least resonates with me is aptitude, right? If you've got the willingness to come in and learn and dive into it head first and really work with people and collaborate, then you're going to have success with us, because we thrive on that, on people wanting to get in, get their hands dirty, get in and actually be able to learn on the job. And look, although there is a certain amount of capabilities we'll need as part of the role, it's for me it's striking the balance, right? And I think for anybody who's interested, if they're really looking to get involved with both cutting edge practices, whether it's our lean or ITIL practices, whether it's just working world-class engineering teams, product and UX teams, then this is an opportunity pretty much not to be missed. And and I'm not just saying that because obviously this is our company and our role, but it's one of the reasons I'm here as long as I am, is because we've been able to maintain that quality and that expertise in our group, and it's always changing, which is great. It's not static. So anybody looking for that kind of opportunity, good challenge, then I'd say come take a look.
Sounds good. Jonny, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're really busy. Really appreciate it. And for anybody out there who is interested in joining Jonny's team, we're hiring. Comment below. We'll follow up with anybody who has a comment below, and we'll get you talking to Jonny's team. Jonny, happy Friday. And
thanks very much.
All right. It's great talking to you. Thank you. Okay, folks, there you have it. We've had everything in there, from good culture through to war rooms, to getting back into the office, to not having to be in the office. It's all there and it's all happening. And as Jonny says, an opportunity not to be missed. Comment below. We'll follow up with you. If you're interested in hearing more about DevOps careers with Jonny's team or any of the other opportunities we have, let us know and we'll reach out to you. Happy Friday.
From where we work to where they live. From our technology to supporting theirs. From each and every one of us to each and every one of them. Everything we do affects everything they do. That's why how we work, what we believe, our values make all the difference.
We share our success with the community
to make the world in which we work better than it was yesterday.
We keep our commitments to each other and our customers.
We know teamwork enables us to serve our customers better and faster.
We focus outward on the customer, not inward.
Our actions produce measurable results.
We run to a crisis, not away.
We are committed to doing the right thing.
This is our credo. Our guide to what really matters. How we stay connected to each other and to them. We are Verizon.